Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today it's going to be the update to Malcolm, the Necromancer tank for the Stonethorn DLC. Now this is designed to build ultimate as fast as possible for whatever content you are in. Anyone can get to grips with this. You don't have to go on vet to get the gear except for perhaps a monster helmet. And all the skills, the potions, all that stuff is going to be explained. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification bell if you want to see more videos like this. But in the meantime, stay tuned. This is all going to be explained.
How did you do that? How did you do that?
Now, first of all, of course, we're going to go into the stats. We usually do, so why not? We are sitting on 9k max magicka, 45k max health, and 19.9k max stamina. We have 1,600 recovery, almost. And we are on 32k resist across the board. 32.4, in fact. If you get a minor buff from that, you'll actually hit cap. So that's very, very comfy. Now, we're using 64 points into max health, and we are using that Atronach Mundus Stone. We are using flat food. You can use other stuff if you prefer. It doesn't show the stats in here, but if you go into your inventory, it will actually give you 5.3k max health and 4.9k max stamina. So if you check here, you will see it does just that. Now, of course, you can use recovery food if you prefer, but that depends on the player. Just bear in mind, of course, some of the skills we're using are based off of max health, so the higher the health, obviously, the more effective they are. But we are going to be actually very, very comfortable with our overall skill usage anyway, so recovery is not something that we are necessarily going to lack. But again, that's a choice. If you want to change stuff, be my guest. Now, we're going to go into skills. This is going to be explained, of course, in detail, all the skills, where they come from, their morphs and all that good stuff, and why. So, first off is Necrotic Potency. This is absolutely mental. This is in the Bone Tyrant skill line's third ability you unlock. Starts off as Bitter Harvest, morph it to Necrotic Potency. Now, all you need to do is have a dead body on the ground. If you activate this for free, and the body is within 12 meters of you, you will actually basically suck the life out of it. You'll harvest its soul, if you like, whichever way you want to call it. Now, this will obviously give you 6 ultimate and heal you for 2 seconds, 2.1k every 1 second for those 2, for each corpse. And this is scaled off of your max health. So the higher your health is, the bigger the heal. Very simple. Now, here's the kicker. This will make you take 3% less damage for being on your bar for a start, so we put it on the front bar for mitigation. And this also counts for every single corpse as far as the heal is concerned and the ulti is concerned. So if you have up to 6 bodies on the ground and you suck up all the ultimate, you will gain 6 ultimate times 6. You will gain a 2-second heal times 6. It's a very long durated heal and stupid ulti gain every time you activate this. Now, if there's 12 bodies on the ground, you have to press it twice. If there's 7 bodies on the ground, you have to press it twice. If it's 6 or less, you have to press it once. It's very, very simple, and again, it's free. This can generate ultimate stupidly fast, and it doesn't have to be enemies that are dead either. Players or your pets also count. So pay very close attention to the bodies on the ground. If they're glowing blue, hit this button. When I say blue, it's kind of a turquoisey color, but you'll get used to it. Now, of course, this is used a lot. You can block cast it, so of course, make sure anytime you see a body, you activate this. We are built to build ultimate very, very fast. Next up is Ruinous Scythe. Now, of course, you can use the other morph of this if you prefer. It does cost magicka, but this has an extra bonus to it. Now, this starts off as Death Scythe, morph it to Ruinous Scythe. This does physical damage in front of you, and it will heal you for a large amount for the first target you hit, and then it will heal you additionally for each individual target hit beside that, or in front of it, whichever, up to 5 times. So up to 6 enemies in total. 1 of the main heal, and 5 off the smaller ones. And this is scaled off of your max health as well. So the higher your health, the higher the heal from this skill. So again, if you lack health because you've gone recovery food, this will go down. The physical damage from it is not that important, but if you do activate this, even if you don't hit a target, you will stack up a tiny buff in your buff timers. And when it gets to 3, the third one, in fact, will actually knock the targets off balance. So, if you stack 2 of these, the third one will knock them off. So you don't need a lightning staff, you don't need to tandem off of somebody else using a lightning staff, so one person's using it, another person's using it, they're both getting concussion, one of you's going to knock them off balance. You've heard it all before. You don't need to do that with this build. If you can keep an eye on this and utilize it for its purpose and keep an eye on uptimes and downtimes of off balance, you can actually knock the targets off balance by pressing a button. Simple as that. You don't have to wait for status effects. You don't have to wait for certain things to be applied. You simply hit the target with this. What I would recommend is try to pace this. If the target is immune to off balance right now, that's when you want to get your 2 hits in. Try and time that when you need a heal if you can. And then save the last hit for when the immunity goes off. Instant control. Very, very nice indeed. So it's a heal and a debuff at the same time. Bear in mind, of course, if you do take the magical morph, you will get heal over time as well, but you won't get the off-balance bonus. So you do have to watch out with your stam sustain while using this. Make sure you do heavy attack occasionally to keep your stamina up, but it's a very healthy ability to use for you and your group. Not just for your survival, but for their damage output. Next up is Pierce Armor. This is in the Sword and Board skill line. First ability to unlock starts off as Puncture, morph it to Pierce Armor. This is so simple. Please read this skill. Any tank that doesn't understand this skill needs to leave the dungeon, read the skill, and then go back in and try and apply it again. This is very simple, and the reason I'm over-exaggerating this is because it is very frustrating to see tanks get the first skill in their skill line and not use it. This is a taunt. As a tank, you need aggro. You need to keep the enemy's attention so they don't punch the squishies in the back of the face. So, you hit the target with this, it taunts them for 15 seconds, and applies a major debuff as well, reducing their physical and spell resistance by 5280 for 15 seconds. So 15 second taunt, 15 second debuff. If this runs out, the boss or the target that you have taunted will run away. You might hit you if you're lucky, but usually it runs away and tries to punch other people. Do not let this run out. So, if you want to be really, really specific with it, yes, of course, every time it hits 14 seconds, about to fall off, you can hit it again. If not, try to keep it up at least every 10 to 12 seconds minimum. Otherwise, you're going to get in trouble. Really early tanks fail this skill on repeat. I don't see healers not healing that often. I don't see DPSs not hitting something. I do see a lot of tanks not taunting. Make sure you keep the attention of the target. It's very important. Now, next up is Unnerving Boneyard. This is picked very specifically for a good reason. Multiple reasons, but a major one at first. This does damage on the ground every 1 second for 10 seconds. Starts off as Boneyard, by the way, morph it to Unnerving Boneyard. Now, when there's a corpse on the ground, this will consume a corpse, by the way, and do 50% more damage. We're not really using it for the damage, but we do want the ticks. This is going to be a lot more relevant when we get to the gear. So just bear in mind, you want some damage ticking over. Now, at the same time, this does have a synergy effect to it, so someone can come up to it, hit the synergy, and do frost damage and area of effect. Frost damage is nice, though, because you can apply minor maim in a form of chilled status effect, if you're lucky. And this does apply Major Breach and Major Fracture to all enemies caught inside of it. Now, yes, this does apply Major Breach and Major Fracture on the targets that you hit, and this is obviously individual. This is area of effect, so you can apply that debuff straight away to everything in the area, up to 6 targets at a time, by the way, and then just top it up with taunts on top. You can't lose, really. Everything's going to be debuffed no matter what. So if there's 5 targets in front of you and you've only taunted one of them's got the debuff. If there's this on the ground, they've all got the debuff, and you're just topping it up with taunts. If this runs out, it's fine. Now, I know you could argue that you need minor protection from the other morph, and you don't. We've got that covered, don't worry. This is your main taunt with the debuff. This is your area of effect debuff with damage. It's done on purpose. This is going to make more sense when we get to the gear. Again, like I've said, at the moment, just bear in mind, it's an area effect debuff to get that debuff in quicker while you start controlling it with this, and to do some damage. It doesn't matter if we do 1 damage. We need damage on the ground for this build. Now, next up is Bone Surge. It's in the Undaunted skill line. Starts off as Bone Shield, morph it to Bone Surge. This will give you a damage shield equivalent of 30% of your max health. So it's pretty huge. And it will last 6 seconds, unless, of course, it gets removed. This is scaled off of health. So, like a DPS, where the higher your resource pool and weapon or spell damage, the higher your skill's effectiveness is in terms of damage output, the same applies to health skills. The higher that pool, the stronger the skill. The lesser your pool, the weaker the skill. Obviously, if it's really weak, it negates the point of even bloody using it. So you need high health to make the most out of this. But above all, if you are taking advantage of it just for its synergy purpose, that is also something that you need to consider. If players take a synergy from you while you activate this ability, they will actually get a damage shield as well, equivalent to 30% of their max health. So the higher their health, obviously the bigger the shield. You get the idea. At the same time, it gives them major vitality, increasing their healing received. This is very, very nice in really dangerous situations where there's a lot of heal required, there's a lot of damage mitigation required. You can protect your group, they can get bigger heals. Make sure people take this synergy. Also, again, remember, this is a stamina-based ability, just like Rune of Scythe is, just like Pierce Armor is. This will cost you, so make sure that you do heavy attack between heavy hitting mechanics. Block the big stuff, heavy attack the rest of the time. You don't have to hold block forever as a tank. That's one of your buttons that you can press. You don't have to hold it forever. Next up is Glacial Colossus. Now, it starts off as frozen, morph it to glacial. Now, this actually brings Malcolm, we call him Malcolm, a giant flesh abomination, out of the ground, and he smashes everyone in front of him. Big, big hits. Hits with frost damage, so it can cause chilled status effect as well, which is minor maim, reducing the damage they do. But after all the hits are gone, it will stun them for 4 seconds if they can be stunned. And on the initial hit, you apply major vulnerability to all enemies hit for 8 seconds. For 8 whole seconds, all of the damage they take is increased by 30%. This is a massive bonus. The Necromancer is the only class in the game, and this is the only skill in the game that this comes from. Now, the enemy's hit cannot be affected again for 20 seconds. So you do have to time this. If it's one ad pull and you nuke it with this, and then you've got another ultimate ready straight away, and you're straight into another ad pull and you fire at them, that's fine. Different targets have their own individual cooldown. So if you nuke one group, then go to the next, you can use it again, no problem. If you're on the same group, and you've got your ultimate ready, which will happen with this setup, then don't fire it until the cooldown is off. However, if you do build ulti very, very fast, and you fire Malcolm first of all, and then 5 seconds later you've got another one, you could just use your backbar ulti and overlap that instead. Or maybe it's a normal group and you just want to use it for the damage and stuns, in which case you can just keep firing it. It's up to you. But pay attention to the timer. Minor vulnerability for 8 seconds, immunity for 20 seconds for the enemies affected by it in the first place. Keep an eye on that. We are going to be able to fire this very, very fast. Spirit Guardians on the back bar, of course, this is actually very, very helpful. This is in the Live and Death skill line. It's a 4th ability you unlock. Starts off as Spirit Mender, morph it to Spirit Guardian. This will actually be with you for 16 seconds, and it heals you or the lowest health ally around you every 2 seconds, restoring a small amount of health. It's a very low heal for us because we're not scaled in max magic or spell damage. So that does boost it, but we're not really using it for that. The small tick heals are nice, but what we really want this for is when it's active, 10% of the damage you take is transferred to the ghost instead. That's point number 1. So this is basically a pet giving you a smaller version of guard all the time. So your mitigation is very, very good. And at the same time, when this disappears or dies, or you summon a new one if it's only got 7 seconds left, this will create a corpse on the ground, which this necrotic potency can consume. So you use your pet, and just about as it's about to run out, or even when it does, you put a body on the ground or recast it, and you can suck it up and get ulti out of it. Very handy protection skill for you and for other people if they need it, but also a very nice free corpse if you like. You don't need to kill something to get this, you activate your own skill. Next up is Summoner's Armor. This is very important. We need a resistance buff, of course. Bone Tyrant skill line. This is the second ability, in fact, you unlock. Starts off as Bone Armor, morph it to Summoner's Armor. Yes, I'm very aware the other morph does change stuff in if you have aggro on it. But just bear in mind, of course, to get that aggro, you might have to range taunt them, which nukes Magicka in the first place. You may as well have just pulled it in with another skill. So, Summoner's Armor is the choice we have made, because then we can utilize our pet more often for a cheaper cost. So, this will give you major resolve, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 5280 for 20 seconds. So, nice resistance buff, and it's fairly cheap. It's only 2.7k Magicka. The other version is more expensive. And, while it's active, you reduce the cost of Blast Bone, Skeletal Mage, and Spirit Mender by 15%. Not only do you get those bonuses for the cheaper pet and for the resistances, you do actually make a corpse with this too. So if you activate it and it ends up running out, a corpse will land on the ground. You activate it and let it go down to about 7 seconds and then reapply it. Again, a corpse will come out. So both of these skills in tandem with each other. While this one makes this one cheaper and you need both of them because they both make bodies, this can suck up both the bodies. So you get 12 ultimate just for using these two skills basically by reapplying them or letting them run out. Very handy. Next up is Inner Rage. This is in the Undaunted skill line. Nearly lost my skills there. This is the third ability you unlock. Starts off as Inner Fire, morph it to Inner Rage. This costs Magicka. It's a 28-meter long-range taunt. Much like your taunt on the front bar, this gives you aggression of the target. And it has a synergy attached to it, so if anyone's 15 meters away from you, the caster, when you activate this, then they can take a synergy and make a big explosion in area of effect. Now, alongside your ranged taunt, if they don't run to you, you might want to pull them in, especially if they're ranged targets. So, we have Silver Leash. This is in the Fighters Guild skill line. This is the first ability you unlock. Starts off as Silver Bolts, morph it to Silver Leash. Silver Bolts does AoE damage. This actually pulls them as a physical chain ability, so you can pull enemies to your feet. Just bear in mind, again, this costs stamina. Don't overspam it unnecessarily. Keep an eye on your cooldowns for CC, because if something is stunned or can't be pulled, you will not get the resources back for this, unlike the DK chains. And you will need to heavy attack occasionally, again, to keep your stamina up. Don't overspam these abilities. Next up, of course, is your main CC. This is Remote Totem. Yes, you can use the other morph of it instead and put it under your feet only, but this has a range to it, which is quite helpful. When you're running up to a big cluster of ads, you drop this down and everything's stuck. So you put this on the ground. Anyone standing inside of this will give minor protection to them for 9 seconds, reducing the damage they take by 8%, yourself included. And after 2 seconds, the totem begins fearing nearby enemies for 2 seconds, causing them to cower in place for 4 seconds. So what that means is they are basically stunned. They can't move. They're feared. They don't run away like the old fears used to. They are petrified on the spot. So this controls things. You pull them in together as much as you can. Watch your CC cooldowns, by the way, because this does count as a stun, like I said. But if you're running up to a big cluster of ads, get your dot down, get your resistance debuff down, get your stun or your CC down, and you are good to go. And you just start taunting everything up and holding it still. Next up is... Oh, this needs to be told where you got it from. Whoops. This comes from Bone Tyrant. It's the fourth ability to unlock. Starts off as Bone Totem. Morph it to Remote Totem. Very handy skill. This is aggressive warhorn, of course, on the back bar. Now, this is chosen on purpose. Yes, there are other ultimates you can use if you choose to, but we are deliberately trying to build ultimate for our group. The build is designed to boost the group's potential just with ultimate regen. So, starts off as warhorn, morph it to aggressive warhorn. This will increase the magicka and stamina of everyone in your group by 10% for 30 seconds, and it will increase their crit damage in the form of major force by 15% for 10 seconds. So there are 2 bonuses on this skill. One lasts for 10, one lasts for 30. Don't overlap them too close to each other, because otherwise you'll just overlap major force and you won't get the full potential out of it. If you can fire this every 30 seconds, you are quite effective. If you can fire even faster, you're really effective. If you fire it too quick, then it's overkill. So what you want to do is in your group, try and fire this once every 10 to 30 seconds if you can help it, to keep as much major force up as possible. Every 10 seconds would be great, but that's not going to happen in every situation. That's where the dummy's rigged to hell, because it doesn't actually happen in content that often. However, this particular build, in some situations, can actually do that. I did demonstrate this in a video, I'll put it in the description as well, where we actually used a very similar setup to this alongside the group setup as well, where we could build ulti so rapidly. I had warhorns, overlapping warhorns before the major force had ran out, at the same time as Malcolm was already smashing the ground. So we can build very, very fast. And remember earlier I said if you overlap this too quickly, you won't get the extra major vulnerability? Well, that's a plus, because you can have the major vulnerability on the ground at the same time as you've got a warhorn running from yourself. This is not going to happen every time, but it is something that can happen with this build. That, again, is going to make more sense when we get to the gear. Depends on how effective your group is at the time. So, let's go over passives. First of all, Gravelord. So, when your Blastbone, Skeletal Mage, or Spirit Mender dies, the cost of your next Blastbone, Skeletal Mage, or Spirit Mender is reduced by 50%. Now, remember, when I said we had a reduction to cost in our resistance buff, that puts the cost down here. This starts off as 3.6k, but as you saw earlier, it's actually 1.8. Now that is because of the combination of this and this. 3.6 to start with, but once your first one dies, you actually get a buff, and it halves the cost. So you get 15% reduction here, and half the cost here because of this passive. It's called reusable parts. If you look at your buff timers at the bottom there, you will actually, I'll put it in the character sheet actually, you will see it here. Anytime you cast a pet, you get given this buff. So the first time you do it in any fight, all your pets are cheaper. Get that. It's really helpful. Otherwise, you're going to burn through magicka very, very quick. This increases your critical strike chance against enemies under 25% health by 10% for each Gravelord ability slotted. That's not that important for us, but take it anyway just in case you do crit. Every little helps, I guess. While a Gravelord ability is active, your spell and physical penetration are increased by 1500. We do have one active pretty much all the time. We have this all the time. It's not the end of the world if you don't have this, because we're not too bothered about our damage. We're just bothered about having some on the ground. But again, if you want to optimize a tiny, tiny amount, you can, of course, get these two passives here. And this increases the damage done with damage over time effects. Again, it's damage based. We don't really need it, but we'll take it anyway because it does give us a little bit of a kick for this. And of course this. If you are short on points, however, reusable parts is the one you need. The rest of them you can just leave. Bone Tyrant, of course, is very important. We are using these skills. Now this is awesome. Our recovery is 1.6 for magicka recovery. We are using magicka skills. It does help to obviously boost that if we can. This will actually give us stamina and magicka back, even if we're blocking, by the way, for our stamina. If you're in combat with something and it dies within 28 meters of you. If a Bone Torrent ability is slotted. Well, we have this on this bar, and we have this on the back bar, as well as this as well. So we do actually have it on both bars. Anytime something dies, you get stuff back. Reduce the damage you take from damage over time abilities. Get that, you got to have it. This increases your healing recede for having a Bone Torrent ability slotted. We actually have 2 on this bar. We have 2 on the back bar as well, 4% for both. And this increases your max health just because. Get it? The healing skill line, we don't have too much in here, but you might want to get a couple of them. While you have a negative effect on you, your healing done is increased. So if you do use this to heal yourself, or this, and you have a negative effect on you, it is stronger. If you have a Live and Death ability slotted, your critical strike chance with all healing abilities is increased by 20% based on the severity of the target's wounds. We don't actually use any of these for heals except for, of course, the pet. It does have a very small heal, but you will benefit from this if you are using it. But it's not massive, so you can take it or leave it at this point in time. Now, just bear in mind, of course, this skill line, you can use the res ulti. In oh shit situations, you can just spam Malcolms and then spam res ultis if things go wrong. We build ulti really, really fast anyway, so this is a choice. But I won't go over that too much. It reses 3 people. It's great. This, when you have an ability on a corpse, when you use an ability on a corpse, you generate 10 ulti, and this can happen once every 16 seconds. What did we say about sucking up corpses? This is an ability used on a corpse. This gives you 6 ultimate per corpse, and once every 16 seconds if you use this, you get a further 10 ulti. Fantastic. While a Blast Bone, Skeletal Mage, or Spirit Mender is active, which we do have, your magicka and stam recovery is increased. Now, Sword and Board, this will reduce the cost of your stamina abilities from this skill line, which we are, of course, using the taunt, so that helps, and of course, this will reduce the cost of block. This will increase the weapon damage from this skill line, although that's not that important, but we do obviously want to take less damage while blocking, and this does that. Block mitigation bonuses are very important. If you don't have these because you have a different weapon, you're going to die to some mechanics because they're designed for the tank to take it with the block mitigation considered. If a DPS tries to block it, they'll die. If you try to block it and you don't have them, you'll die. Not all stuff, but a lot of stuff. This increases the strength of your standard bash attacks, but at the same time reduces the cost of them. This increases the amount of damage you can block from projectiles, and this reduces the movement speed negative or penalty that you gain while blocking. So while blocking you're slower, this will actually speed you up a bit. This ulti here, by the way, you can use it in oh shit situations if you really want to, but we're going to be building the ulti so fast, you're probably going to have this up forever. So that's a choice. You could just basically block ulti over and over and over and over and throw in Malcolms when you've got loads. Whichever. Whatever works for you. We're not using a destruction staff. We are not using an ice staff. We don't need it because we've got a range taunt anyway. We're not using the wall of elements for any crusher infused, any blah 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 stuff there. So we don't need it. We certainly don't need a lighten staff for off balance to make us really, really squishy and not have block passives on the back bar because we have off balance in our skill. We already provide it on our front bar. However, if you want to, you can change the back bar and you can use an ice staff if you prefer. You can alter it in any way, shape or form that you feel works for you, but as it is, it works just fine. Just bear in mind, if you do go ice staff, you will want Trifocus so you get your free taunt, and you will want to have Ancient Knowledge so that you get your block mitigation bonus, because otherwise, again, you will die to big stuff. We're not using any light, we're not using any medium, full heavy all the way through, 7 heavy. This will increase your physical and spell resistance per piece. This will increase your health recovery and, of course, give you magicka and stamina back once every 4 seconds when you get hit per piece 1. This will increase your health per piece up to 14% increase, actually. This will increase the amount that you get back from your heavy attacks. and this will increase your healing received. Note, these two must have 5 pieces in order for them to work. We are not using any of those. We are using one Fighters Guild passive, and that is Banish the Wicked. If you kill something that is undead, Daedra, or werewolf, and this is very likely to happen, especially when you're using Malcolm all the time, you will generate 9 ultimate, which does add up alongside the rest of the stuff we're doing. It's absolutely disgusting, so that will help. Now, we are using the Undaunted passives, of course. If you take a synergy, you will gain back 4% of all 3 resources. So any synergy in the entire game that you take, even if you now take 7 different synergies, you just got 4% all of your resources back for every single one you just took. That's 28% of your entire resources back, just like that. Easy peasy. And of course, the bonuses that the synergies give in the first place. And this will increase your max health, magicka, and stamina per type of armor worn. We are technically only wearing heavy, so we get 2% across the board. We're doing that on purpose. We want to get as much out of the heavy armor passives as possible. Makes us really chunky. We are a Nord. You can be anything else you like, but we are a Nord. Now this will increase your food duration, which is quite nice if you're using expensive stuff, but we're not, so that's irrelevant. We have an increased max health of 1k, which is quite nice. We have cold resistance. Obviously, being a Nord, we are resistant to cold, and we gain immunity to chilled status effects. So we cannot be hit with chilled status effects from any source, which means minor maim can only be applied to us via its raw debuff. It can't be applied to us in any other manner. This increases your max stamina by 1.5k, and when you take damage, you gain 5 ultimate once every 10 seconds. So that obviously helps there. We've got the Fighters Guild passive, we've got this passive, we've got our pets, we've got our necrotic potency, we've got our passive for our pets as well. We've got a lot of ulti regen at base, but we're going to have a lot more. And of course, we've got really high resistances. We don't have to spec into heavy reinforced pieces. We can go quite far into loads and loads of sturdy for lots of block cost reduction, so we can utilize our standbar more, obviously, because we're not nuking it because of this. There are lots of different races in the game that you can choose from. This passive here, you will have to consider as a plus or a negative, depending on which race you choose. If you don't choose to be a Nord, you will lose this, and you will have to find it elsewhere. Alchemy, of course, medicinal use. If you make crafted potions, they will last 47 seconds with a 45-second cooldown with this passive. I will tell you, usually, that this is the most important passive in the game, in my opinion. How many times have you heard that on my channel? This passive is not required for this build, if you follow the build and don't alter it. Because, normally, potions will last about 35-36 seconds. And our cooldown on this build is 29. You just saved yourself 3 skill points. You're welcome. Now, to make sense of that, we're going to get into the gear, and this is a bit nuts. Some of you may have seen my video recently with 100% uptime warhorn. That is very close to what we've actually got here. So, if you haven't seen these sets before, your head is about to explode. If you have seen them before, you may have seen my Maelstrom build from a long time ago. That was never released, but it was mentioned on stream. I actually used one of these sets in VMA and have done for a long time. It's very strong then, but it's fucking stupidly strong now. They buffed the crap out of it. We are using Deadwater's Guile. This is indecisive on purpose so that we get the extra ulti regen every time we gain 1 ultimate. That means if your Nord passive, your Necro passive, your consuming ultimate from necrotic potency, your passive ultimate regen from light attack or heavy attack once every 8 seconds, any ultimate that you gain from any source can have a chance to gain 1 more. So that is bloody broken. So we are deliberately using decisive. We don't need defending because we've got loads of physical and spell resistance in our race. We are using Magicka Drain poisons, which lasts for 6 seconds if you use a light, a heavy attack, or a weapon skill with this bar. So that can actually give us quite a lot of magic back to help with our recovery once every 10 seconds, if you're lucky. And we're using a sword and board of this set on both bars, so we always have this no matter what. Now, why have we chosen this for sword and board and jewelry? Well, it's a medium set. So we want to put it on the sword and board and jewelry so that we don't have any medium armor pieces because it'll affect our passives. Now, yes, this technically is a stamina medium DPS-ish set, but we're utilizing it on the tank. So what we've done on the jewelry is we've gone with 1 healthy to give us a little bit of health and magic recovery, which is quite nice. And we've gone with reduction to potion cooldown. We've infused on both jewelry pieces. Now what does this do to our potions? Our tripod, which is lost, where's it gone? Has a 47-second duration, as you can see, with medicinal use, which is unnecessary. But we have a 29-second cooldown now. This is extremely relevant. 29 seconds. Remember that. Now, while we go on about the set again, this gives you weapon damage, max health, which is nice, max stamina, which is nice. So health and stam, survival plus blockability. Weapon damage again, meh, whatever. And when an enemy dies within 2 seconds of being damaged by you, you gain 15 ultimate with 0 cooldown. So why is that important? We're not really doing damage, are we? Yes, we are. This skill here, which can apply minor maim if you get shield status effects and all that good stuff, we're keeping this up all the time. It's got debuffs, it's got status effects, it's got damage. As long as the targets in this circle are taking damage from you and they die, you will get 15 ultimate every time that happens. So if there's 10 enemies inside this area of effect and your ticking damage is hitting every single enemy, but you're not doing barely any damage, you're just doing some, as long as you touch them, when they all die, there's 150 ultimate for you. So imagine a big ad pull, they've all got say 50k health each, they're inside your dot, and someone just runs in with spin to win and just nukes the crap out of them. You just gained all that ultimate for doing 1 skill. And this happens in boss fights, trash fights, dungeons, trials, overland, even PvP. Anywhere. So we can build ultimate rapidly. Very, very fast. If stuff dies, we rebuild. That's stupidly fast. It's actually 5 times faster than your standard ulti regen, and it stacks with your ulti regen, and you can get your decisive bonus from each time something dies, and you've got your Fighters Guild passives as well if you accidentally kill something. We can build ultimate stupidly quick, and of course, if you haven't figured that out already, each body on the ground can now be sucked up with necrotic potency. So if there's 10 bodies on the ground, and you're using necrotic potency, and they all died when you touched them, there's 150 from this, that's 60 from necrotic potency, not to mention the decisive and the passive regen, and your Nord passives, and your Fighters Guild passives, and all that kind of stuff. We're just going to go with 210 right now, because that's what we've got. Plus, you've got the extra 10 from your passives and a Necro skill line for using your Corpse ability once every 16 seconds. We just gained 220 ultimate plus from a single ad pull. So that's you dropping an ultimate and then having it ready again once they're dead. It's really fast. Oh, and it gets even faster because we're using Bloodspawn. Now, we are cap resist borderline anyway, so the resistance bonus from this is useless. The stam recovery bonus is only good to us when our shield is down, so while you're heavy attacking, this does actually kick in. But while we take damage, we have a 6% chance to gain 13 ultimate as well. So once every 5 seconds, if you get hit, you could get 13 ultimate. And it's going to get quicker. Arc Assess. Max health, armor, max health. When you drink a potion, you and 3 other group members gain 44 ultimate, and this can happen once every 30 seconds. That's mental. Absolutely insane. So, you can build really fast. Now notice, our potion cooldown is 29 seconds. The cooldown for this is 30. So all you have to do is when your potion runs out, count 1 second, then apply your potion. It'll keep your recovery up, it'll keep your resources flooding in with your potions, and it'll keep this up. 44 ultimate every 30 seconds, guaranteed on top of everything else. And we've got one more bonus added to this. This can actually be applied once every 30 seconds by you. Anyone else in your group wearing this also has their own individual cooldown, but they stack. So if I'm standing next to someone right now and we both pop a potion at the same time, we both just got 88 ultimate. This is absolutely nuts if you can utilize it. You do have to stay fairly close, but it's very, very strong. Again, there's a video in the description demonstrating how this actually worked out. We used it on 3 Easy Sorks and this guy, and we could throw ultimates basically left, right, and center before anyone could ever wish to build an ultimate that quickly. So let's go over the traits. We've got decisive on both bars, alongside reinforced on the shields. Reinforced on the head and the shoulders of Bloodspawn with max health on both. Arcasis is on the body all the way through because we want it on both bars, as we do with Dead Water as well. And they're all sturdy. We've got so many resists, we don't need any more reinforced there. Infused with reduction to potion cooldown on both. And then we've got one more piece of jewelry, of course, with mag recovery and healthy. Really, really nice setup indeed. Now, of course, we're going to go over the champion points. So I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of how this works. I'm going to show you a quick clip, actually, from the previous video. And then the link itself, you can click it whenever you want to, if you want to. Champion points, of course. Very standard stuff here. 72 points into Ironclad to reduce the amount of direct damage you take. 64 and 64 into flat damage from all sources, and 51 into thick skin to reduce damage over time. Just bear in mind, of course, we are using a lot of stamina abilities. You do want a heavy attack between mechanics. If you break free, your next stamina ability is 80% cheaper. Utilize that as and when you can. 19 points in a quick recovery to increase your healing received by 5%, and of course you've got the field physician passive, so if you are resurrecting someone, you will actually take less damage. You could use the res ulti in emergencies, or if you're using the block ulti, you can actually activate that first, then res people, and you can't be knocked down while doing so. 56 into Warlord to reduce the cost of break free. 64 in Tenacity to increase our heavy attack return, that does stack with our heavy armor passives, and 75 to increase our mag recovery. We have 9 points into Tumbling, because sometimes you will need to dodge roll, and of course 66 into Shadow Ward to reduce the cost of block alongside our sturdy and our passives. We do have Treasure Hunter passive, by the way, unlocked, so if you do loot chests, you'll have higher quality loot if you're lucky. 75 into Bless to increase our healing done, so we will heal ourselves, that helps. We will crit heal as well, so why not? We'll have some of this. Elfborn, 72 points there. And of course, the rest of it, Master at Arms has got 2 points because nowhere else to put them, may as well take some direct damage, is in here. 72 into Thaumaturge to increase the damage over time from our skill that we are using. It's not that important to increase that, but we've got the points to use, so we're going to do it. And 49 into Mighty to increase any physical damage we do, including our Scythe. Again, that's not that important, but we've got the points to do it. Why did we put them here when it's really not that important? Now, we could put max here and still have loads of points left and not use them in any smart way whatsoever. Or we could maximize a couple of skills and get Last Stand. If you go low health, below 20%, you will be granted 3 ultimate every 1.5 seconds for 9 seconds. And this can occur every 20. Alongside of our stupidly high ulti regen, we actually have this as well, which further enhances it. It's absolutely stupid, and yes, Decisive works with this too. Not to mention, of course, you do have the off-balance passive here with the Exploiter bonus, where if something does go off-balance, and it will because you're forcing it with your skill, you'll do more damage to them. It's a tiny bonus, but it still helps. This, above all, is why these are here, but we've utilized them in such a way that we can actually make a benefit rather than have a loss. Because if you've just got heals and that's all you're really using, the rest isn't really important anyway. This passive is insane. So here's a quick demonstration of what to expect. Yes, of course, these are ad pools and all the rest of it, but this works in bosses as well, because lots of bosses have ads or ad phases. So this is very, very useful to build ulti really, really fast. You can, of course, be a vampire and use Vampire Drain if you really want to, but that's really, honestly, overkill. By the time you've even activated the skill, you've got ulti anyway. And I found when we were testing this, I couldn't taunt most things because I had my ultimate ready by scooping up all the bodies and everything was dead. So keep up your taunts, keep up your resistance buff, keep up your pet. Whenever they die or you recast them, scoop them up. Apart from that, keep your dot down on the ground and you are done. Everyone else needs to kill stuff, which is their job anyway, and you benefit from that, which can throw out ultimates for them. It's you versus the group. They kill stuff, you gain, you drop ulti, they kill more stuff. Rinse, repeat over and over and over. Again, even in big fights with single target bosses, there will still be ads somewhere. Every single one ad is 15 ultimate. What have you got to lose? Now, we're going to go into the fabulous section right now, fashion. So, first of all, we are using the Cold Snap Goblin Helmet. Now, this is the medium, by the way, not the light. This is the medium. Makes him have that nice veil and the skull thing on top of there. Very cool. Now, the chest is actually dragon bone. So, we've got a medium chest, heavy shoulders, heavy hands. We have a light horned dragon sash. Then we've gone back again to dragon bone for the heavy legs and heavy feet. So basically dragon bone everything on heavy except for the chest, which is a medium, and the belt, which is horned dragon sash. That way he looks like he's covered in bones, which is mega. Then the weapon, we've got a soul shriven mace, because it's a nice spiky ball of death. And of course, the shield is a huntsman shield. Now on the back bar, this is different on purpose because obviously if you're on the back bar, you don't want to think you've got the same weapons on both, because if you do, it can get confusing. Maybe you didn't look at your skills. It helps to be able to swap with something new and recognize that you're on the wrong bar, for example. Now, the main weapon here is the Ancient Moon Crescent sword, and we've got a Militant Ordinator shield. Now we're using two colors here. One of them is actually over here. This is the Warrior's Steel. That's the kind of purpley color that we've got, and the bone color is Palatine's White. Now you do have to have Alliance War Palatine achievement in order to get this one, so you can use one of the other ones if you like. Soul Shriven Pale is actually not too far off. You get Master Explorer for that one, and this one can be achieved by completing Hell Ra, and you don't even have to do that on Fae. You just have to complete it. So very nice indeed. So hopefully that helped, hopefully it wasn't too boring, hopefully now I have a better understanding of how to approach this particular build. First of all, thank you very, very much for watching. I hugely appreciate support. If you are not subscribing already, please do hit that button. Don't forget the notification bell as well. And if you want to help support outside the channel, there are some links in the info section for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, which I live stream every night except Wednesdays, and of course the website, XynodeGaming.com, where all the written guides are, including this one. Once again, thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.